Hello, everyone. Pat McQuaid here at the Pat McQuaid Podcast. I just wanted to take a second to introduce my first ever guest on this thing, Kevin Barry, a good friend and a former lieutenant colonel in the Rhode Island State Police. Kevin is originally from Massachusetts, went into the state troopers as a young man after a stint in the Marines. Eventually became a detective in the narcotics group, and then ended up in the executive command and has had a storied career. And Kevin became a great friend of mine when we went to Israel with about 30 other Rhode Islanders two or 3 years ago. And a great friendship came out of it. But anyways, I wanted to get Kevin's perspective on what's going on in the world and to hear a little bit more about his career and law enforcement. So pull up a chair and let's get going. Thanks. Talk into this thing if you can. Just keep it pointed at you, all right? All right, here we are at the Pat McQuaid Podcast with my good friend and first guest, Kevin Barry, okay? Acting colonel. Were you acting colonel or colonel of Rhode Island State Police?
Acting colonel.
Acting colonel.
Twice.
Twice. That's got to be a distinction.
I think it could be a record,
right?
yeah.
One time. That's amazing. So Kevin was a Marine, originally from the suburbs outside of Boston. After his Marine Corps experience, went into the Rhode Island State Police. And he's my first guest, and he's one of my best friends. And really, the only person that would be willing to try this out with me. So thanks for coming, pal.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Literally, how honored am I that I'm the first guest?
The first guest.
This hopefully not the last guest.
I was just gonna say the first of 2, 3. Who knows? You know. But all right, Kev. Let's get into it. All right. So tell us about when you were coming out of high school.
Yeah.
What was the plan out of that?
So coming out of high school, probably thinking about going to college. So no one in my family had actually, my dad had an associate's degree. That's the furthest anybody had went. So plan was college. And then, believe it or not, 1983, Beirut bombing. No cable news and all this. So it was all the Boston Herald and looking at the atrocities of what happened in the Marines. So flipped the switch, joined the Marine Corps. Promised my dad was in the Air Force, so he was not too psyched about going in the military, but I made a promise that I go to Marine Corps and then college. So wasn't too psyched about the whole aspects of the Marine Corps and stuff, but kind of went as planned because I told him, I said, Marine Corps, college, state police. And to this day, we still joke that I kind of went as planned, and I get his reservation as a father with a sophomore in high school, junior in high school, saying I'm gonna forego college and I'm just gonna, this is my plan, and then to actually execute the plan and kind of finish everything the way that it happened. So
do you think people are born with do you think soldiers sometimes are born?
I do, yeah.
In the same way, a nurse
right
is born to be a nurse. She's a healer, he's a healer. Do you think that sometimes people, especially young men, are born just I'm thinking of General Mattis, General Patton, who thought of himself as a warrior reincarnated, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that sometimes...
Mattis is a good one too, right?
Right.
Yeah, the Marine monk, as they called him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get married because he didn't want that to interfere with his Marine Corps career.
It's almost like the priesthood.
And that's, that was my next, it's a calling, right? When you mention nurses, you mention doctors or military or public servants. You and I have our faith-based, and I'm sure we'll touch on that, but I think that desire to serve is a calling. just like it's a calling to be a priest, to be a monk, to be a sister. Like, I think there's a true calling. I think the recognition of the calling is the key.
Yeah.
Right. So like, if we can recognize that calling when it's there. So my brother's a firefighter too. My brother's a retired firefighter. So
Right.
both of us, and he started going to the fire station when he was like 14 years old, 15 years old in our little town, and never left for like 30 something years.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So,
But even the courage to heed the call, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, these are lifetime commitments.
Sure.
Oftentimes, like the priesthood, right?
Right.
Like, I admire the young men that go into the priesthood, because it's like, could you imagine being 22 and be like, I'm going to give up having my own family and all those other open-ended aspirations that I could have because I am this committed to my vocation, right?
it's amazing.
It's amazing, right?
It's a grace, I feel, and a strength that's especially in the religious order side of the house. Like, I think it's a true grace from God, because like you said, at 22, you don't even know who you are at 22. Never mind, like, this is going to be my life.
Right.
I'm going to be, especially the extreme side of the house with the monks and the different, like, I mean, that's a whole
nother
I couldn't do it, I couldn't.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Dude, so you show up, do you go to Paris Island?
Paris Island.
And what was standing on those yellow footsteps like?
Yeah,
did they have that back then?
Yeah. So I had graduated from high school, and 2 days later I was down there. But it was something that I had, and I'm sure this will kind of segue into what we're doing now. But I had kind of really prepared myself on my own.
Yeah.
There was no YouTube to see what
Right.
was going on. There was no,
Yeah.
I talked to my recruiter, and he was like, hey man, you're going to get your stuff knocked in. So you better be preparing. Like, that was the gist of the preparation.
Yeah.
And you had, I kind of did my own research to the best of my ability, but I was an athlete. So
Yeah.
mentally, like, I couldn't, but I literally just turned 18. So, go to Paris Island, footprints, all my friends are partying on the Cape.
Yeah.
Right. Hanging out, like,
Yeah.
doing what you should be doing as an 18-year-old
You're
after high school.
MREs in a field
I'm like,
somewhere.
did I really make the right decision on this?
Yeah.
But it all worked out.
How long is the training for a non commission?
It actually, what's today, the 27th?
Yeah.
So, this was the graduation date, the 27th. I have this weird thing
really?
with dates, but June 4th to August 27th. I always just remember those 2 dates.
Yeah.
So what is that, about 12, 13 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then did you go to like an MOS school?
you go to MOS, and then
and that's like your job in the
That's your
military.
job. Yeah, that's your job in the military. So then
What was your job?
So originally had signed up for infantry.
Yeah.
And
You wanted the easy route.
Yeah. Got cross-trained into, believe it or not, when I went to this particular unit, they needed a motor transport guy, so I had to go to, like, motor transport school. It was crazy.
What's that? Like driving
big
trucks?
yeah. See, all right, whatever. It's
Did that ever-
wants and needs. Never
Never used it
benefited for me anything in my life. But I drive a pickup truck,
Right.
an old one, right? So, so then I did my thing in the Marine Corps, and to my father's promise, I went to college up at Worcester State. I got my degree.
How long were you at Worcester State? Was it like
4 years? 4 years.
Okay.
And,
So it was like a true college experience.
true
where you had
college
the
experience.
Summers off
Yep.
and everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then told them, state police. So applied to Rhode Island. Went through the whole process.
How come you didn't try Massachusetts?
So not to knock my brothers and sisters in Mass, but a good friend of mine who was a Marine in Vietnam, he said the best job in the country is Rhode Island State Police. And I was like, really? And he's like, it's small, it's very paramilitary, hard to get into, training's brutal. And I was like, all right, let's give it a whirl. So went down, not uncommon to not get in the first time. I think there was 4,300 applicants and 34 jobs.
4,300 applicants. And how many jobs?
34.
34.
So my class was like, we all went through, went all the way to the end, didn't make it, had to go through again, and then we made it. And, the caliber of the guys that were in there. We had one female, and she was outstanding. But we had military folks, military education, military police officers. These are people that didn't get in. Had a pilot, an Air Force pilot who didn't get in. So the caliber of the candidate was so high. So it wasn't uncommon for you to not get in.
What when they're selecting candidates for Rhode Island State Police, what are the things that they're really looking for? Would it be, I mean, there's the obvious of like character, physical ability, and showing that you can succeed academically. But I imagine of those 4,300, there's 400 on paper that all look like they have that. So how do you?
Yeah, there's just like the difference between the ones that are getting selected and let's say the alternate list, which I was actually one of them. It's literally like everybody at that point, and I'm not knocking currently, but it's just a different dynamic. Just because you're not getting the candidate numbers, you're not getting get into the whole thing on the perception of law enforcement and different things that have happened that have kind of changed that opinion. But I fortunately feel it's coming back. But I think they're looking for the integrity piece of it. They're looking for the fitness, like you said, competency. You got to have, obviously, the academy's long. It's 6 months long. You live there. There's testing constantly, all different types of things that you can imagine.
And you're sleeping in the barracks
You're sleeping
for 6
there
months.
for 6 months.
And those guys, everyone, not you at this point, but some people have families.
Oh, yeah. Guys and gals, there's babies being born during the academy. It's not uncommon. So it's a haul, right? Yeah. And I think that's why the attrition rate is pretty intense and pretty high, even after that pretty broad selection process, right? So, I was fortunate enough to make it through that. I was a road trooper for 6 years, and then had a K-9. Then I went into detectives for about 10 years total.
Talk to me about being a detective. Is there an additional school that you go to to make detective?
No. So selection. So this is a unique thing about Rhode Island. It's pretty much like performance based.
Yeah.
So there's like a very few slots for detectives. It's a very coveted thing, and there's like a lot of people that go for it. So you have to put a resume together. You have to provide cases that you did. You have to, sit before a panel, the detective commander, the assistant detective commander, whoever else they designate. And then it's kind of like there's within the official process, there's people advocating like, hey, this guy or this gal did really well in financial crimes investigations, or they have a background in financial crimes. They're a forensic accountant, or whatever their background is. So, I had a patrol narcotics dog. I give the credit to him. He was pretty successful on the road with seizures and things like that.
What was the dog's name?
Bandit. He was a shepherd from Germany.
Oh, really?
I think they paid $8,500 for him in like 1999.
Wow.
So he was highly trained.
Line dog.
Yeah, he was highly trained. He was way smarter than I could ever be.
Could that dog like hang around the living room with?
He could. Some of them can't, but he was like a light switch. Like he could just chill out and hang, and then if he knew it was time to go to work and you flip the switch, like he's ready to go.
So you go into detective route, right? And within detective, are there different silos of specialties?
Yeah. So, state police has a lot of stuff. Like I said, back when I was there, organized crime, which was the intelligence unit. So they were very well known for the infiltration of the La Cosa Nostra and the Rhode Island mob and all the connections and all that good stuff. And then narcotics is where I went. So I went right into narcotics. And then I was assigned to the FBI State Police HIDTA Task Force, which targets like high-level drug dealers. And it's the makeup is great because it's troopers, it's FBI, it's Providence Police, Pawtucket Police, any municipality that wants to lend an officer to that task force can do so. So it's just this great, like, no chest beating. We don't care, what agency you're from. It's like we're all in this together to like work together, make sure we're safe, do really good cases. It was great. Like that looking back, that's like probably the best.
So
time.
take me inside of like a big drug investigation. So like, not, you don't have to get into particulars, but like, so someone gets arrested on the highway with more than a personal consumption level of cocaine or whatever it is, right? Does the investigation start there, or do you guys just like have an understanding of the marketplace for illegal drugs in Rhode Island?
Yeah, so it's kind of what you said. It's just a couple different ways. So it could start with that traffic stop, and somebody pulls off a half a kilo of cocaine or a kilo or a gun, or somebody has a warrant, and usually those are the people that you're trying to talk to. In the law enforcement world, they were generally characterized as like the mules, which was the runner, right? Like they're just muling it up. So they really don't know, the nomenclature of the real true crime connection, right? The org chart of the but you start somewhere, and then
they're the employees, not
the biggest thing is
partners.
informants, right? So the biggest thing is like how to cultivate informants, get those informants, and then they're in and of itself managing them is quite a task, right? Because they're playing both sides of the field, you know what I mean? And you got to be careful of them. You got to be very careful of them. They could get you in serious trouble, So there's a credibility thing, and there's a lot of like ancillary provisions that allow for the vetting of them, the maintenance of them, the credibility of them. Like if they get caught lying, they're no longer a credible source, and you can't use them anymore.
Gotcha.
Right? So, and then we're building in U.S. Attorney's office if it's a federal case, AG's office if it's state.
So they're all baked into the process because, like, say you get someone who has half a kilo of cocaine, then the natural next step would be to arrest them and prosecute them. But if they agree to cooperate, then that's when you bake in the AG and the district attorney, and then it becomes kind of like
so in that they'll kind of take it where I was, and we would take anything, but we were targeting the purpose of the HIDTA task force is to like get major drug dealers.
Right.
So, through the RICO statute or like, so we were trying to, ultimately for us, it was like try to get up on a wiretap.
Yeah.
And then, get up on a wiretap, let the wiretap run.
Yeah.
And then obviously we're hopefully at the end of that, going to climb that ladder from that half a kilo or kilo all the way up to bigger and better and more drugs.
What's the biggest bust that you've ever been a part of?
I would think it would be, it was numerous kilos. Trying to think what the number was. I know some of our guys I had, multi-kilo, multis, like, 20 and up.
How much is a kilo worth?
Back then, the street value was $100,000. So broken up. So they break up the kilo, and then they re-rock it, and they do all this other stuff, and then they sell it, and it breaks it down. So back then, the monetary street value was like $100,000. So it's up there now too.
Gotcha.
But,
so and then what's it like when you have the case built? You've been tracking on, say, the half a kilo guy gets you to the 3 kilo guy who gets you to the
10 kilo
guy, right? At what point do you make the call, this is go time, and we're going to arrest them all?
So it's a great question because you never really know.
Right.
You
wait until you see the fruit.
Yeah, and a lot of times you'll gamble to hit it because of a phone call or because of a surveillance.
Right.
Or because you're kind of just hoping that it's there. you
Right.
know. So, and again, a lot of it's informant based, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of times that'll be an informant calling you saying, hey, I just left the house and there's 5 kilos in there. I just looked at them.
Yeah.
So,
And so when you get to that 5 kilo guy, do you and the rest of the, would you use a SWAT team for that, or would it be like 5 troops?
so it depends on the suspect that you're going after, or suspects that
Like
you're
how
going
dangerous
after. Yeah. So
they're-
there's a score sheet basically that you have, and that you'll go down, and so if the person, it's a point system based. So
Yeah.
if the person has, you know, previous convictions of narcotics, any crimes of violence, firearms, weapons, assaults on a police officer, any type of even felony assault on another person,
Yeah.
that obviously increases the number. And if it meets a certain threshold point wise,
Yeah.
it's consultation with the SWAT team, or they'll come and do it for you.
Gotcha.
Typically we were not calling them a lot, and we were kind of doing our own,
Yeah.
but they definitely were called out, you know.
I'm just thinking of Denzel Washington and Training Day,
Oh,
you
God.
know, just with the necklace and the badge, you know.
Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. No.
not
But so
work
the
that
SWAT team guys, so they go through the academy, and then
Yeah.
is that like a
Specialized, just like SWAT team, dive team, K9, all the specialty units.
and when a SWAT team member isn't on SWAT, are they just
Regular.
regular?
Yeah, so we don't have the, you know, you look around at nationally, there's different departments and cities and counties that's like full-time SWAT team. So like in the state police here, we're so small that,
Yeah.
you know, we used to call it like wearing multiple hats, right? So you're
Yeah.
gonna wear like your detective hat today, and then you're gonna wear your SWAT hat tomorrow, or
Yeah.
your K9 hat tomorrow, and so which is really says a lot about the men and women of the department, because they really have to step up. So their days
Right.
off, a lot of time, are in their free time, if you will, is dedicated to training whatever specialty, you know, that's
Right.
going to be. So, you know, there's a lot that goes with it.
So it's
too.
like a bolt-on.
Yeah, yeah,
career.
no, it's definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, you can, and some people choose to do it, and some people
SWAT's
choose
pretty
not.
cool. You
Yeah,
know?
no, those guys do a great job, and
Yeah.
you know, if it's big and ugly and it looks bad, like,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, there's one common goal, like no one gets hurt.
Right.
Everybody wants to go home,
Yeah.
right? And that's for the law enforcement people. That's for, you know, the civilians that are in the street walking by, not knowing that there's a raid going on,
Right.
or the people that live on the second floor and we're going after the third floor,
Yeah.
and even the suspects. Like, you want to make sure no one wants to get anybody hurt or killed. You
Right.
know? So, you know, you check the egos, and you just, you know, do the analysis, and then if it warrants them, then
Yeah.
they're coming in, and that's their wheelhouse.
At what point were you, so you were, you know, a seasoned detective where you pivoted towards leadership? Like,
Yeah.
what was that like?
So I did narcotics, then I was assigned to the intel unit for a short time. Then I went to, after 9/11, went to the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the FBI, full time.
In Quantico?
So I went, no, that was actually here in Providence, assigned to them. Then I went through some training through JTTF. The Quantico experience was the FBI National Academy. So
Okay.
nothing to do with the
With that
terrorism world. It's
experience,
just that's kind of like, you know, the crown jewel of law enforcement, the National Academy at Quantico. So you come
Gotcha.
out through the National Academy, the FBI National Academy. So I did that down the road, but yeah, so went to JTTF, and then was there, learned some really good stuff with after 9/11 with Joint Terrorism Task Force. Again, partnerships, like locals, state, federal.
Right.
We figured out that, you know, in order to, the federal agencies were really good at, like, they used to say, like, collecting the dots, but they weren't good at connecting the dots.
Right.
So there was like not a good communication from the feds to the locals and the locals to the feds. It was just kind of like, so
Right.
9/11 showed, like, hey, we all got to work together on this, right? So, you know, the street police officers are coming into contact with these people way more on a regular basis than your federal partners, right?
Right.
So, you know, finally bring everybody in together, put them all under one roof, And then that way, that communication is there, the dissemination of information is there,
Yeah.
and that is only going to really strengthen the intelligence portion of all of it,
Right.
On a local level, on a federal level,
Right. And I feel like part of the rub from the outsider's perspective on all, having multiple different law enforcement agencies involved in something is that it's a spirit of competition more than collaboration, right? Where it's like you see in the movies, like, the local police are always pissed the FBI is taking over, then the FBI is competing with the CIA, and it's like, whereas, to your point, I one time heard a podcast about this gentleman, Mike Morrell, who is acting director at CIA. And he had a gentleman who I don't remember the name of, but he used to run the analysis part of it. And he spoke about when he would address incoming case officers or, CIA classes of employees. And he would say, I'm going to take you to two islands. One is in the 1940s when our nation had all the different pieces of information, but no agency to put them together.
Yep.
And that's what happened with Pearl Harbor. And then he's like, and then I'm going to take you to another island, Manhattan, when we had all the pieces of information, but we couldn't stop it in time. And, even when we have the best and the brightest people working on this, sometimes you'll fall short and you have to keep going. But I remember thinking that was like a powerful thing.
Very powerful. And
say.
very accurate.
Right? Yeah.
And very accurate. I mean, and then...
Because you'll never be perfect. And the bad guy just has to be right once.
Right. And exactly. And, and then there, after the 9/11 commission came out and, they looked at a lot of where we went wrong and how was it preventable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that died.
Right.
And we got to be better. We got to be right. And that was the message back then was like, we got to really drill down.
For sure. So you evolved out of the FBI.
So I went after that, went to the academy as an instructor, and then a couple promotions, went back on the road as a lieutenant, on nights.
Which barracks were you at?
So you're out statewide.
Okay.
It's just kind of statewide going through. Then 2013 went to the academy as the commandant, the academy, which was a very, in my opinion, very prestigious assignment because very few times that happens over the course of 100 years. The state police 100 years this year. Yeah. So
today's this year's
25.
The centennial.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
So 100 years, 1925. So went through that, put the recruits through, and then got assigned to Cranston Police as the acting chief over there.
Yeah.
During some very well known and public issues. So great experience. So much respect for the men and women of Cranston. They did an outstanding job. Really good people over there, and I was really honored to be part of kind of the change over there. And then kind of came back, state police, and was put up for the Department of Public Safety as a lieutenant colonel, and oversees training academy, municipal training academy, the public safety agency, so sheriff's office, Capitol Police, 911, grants administration office. They all come under the umbrella of the state police. So did that. Got up to the deputy superintendent and a couple of goes at
acting
at the
colonel.
acting level. Yes.
And what year was that the first time?
16, I think. Yeah,
16.
Yeah, and then maybe 18.
Gotcha.
18, something like that.
Yeah. And that must have been quite I mean,
it was great.
How many state troopers are there?
So, it fluctuates. It's usually around 250, 260, somewhere in there, because we had that mandatory retirement and things like that. So the numbers are fluctuating, but right around 250. It's when you incorporate DPS, there's a lot of people in those agencies. So I think total it's probably 400 or 500 between all the different agencies.
It's a huge management job.
It is a management, but you know what? It's really, it's not as difficult as you think because you got really strong leadership, like all over the place. That's the key.
There's huge ownership across.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you're in charge of this, like be in charge of that, and like tell me what you need from me, and so I mean, and the backbone of those agencies are like those men and women that are going out there doing the job every day. So it's not the guy sitting on the third floor.
That's up in where is
Situate
in Situate.
They're not the state police is the road troopers and the detectives and the boots on the ground.
How did you like being in like a management position versus being on the street? Like, what was your...
I said my favorite job was in narcotics with a dog. Working with the best guys and gals.
Wearing jeans and
sweatshirts and just, like everybody wants to get to the command staff until you get to the command staff. And then it's like, what am I doing up here?
It's like HR meetings, compliance, a lot of that stuff.
Budgets. It's putting, you know what it is? It's putting out fires. Put out fires every day. What's the hot fire today? What's the hot fire? You just put it out. I mean, it's a blessing. Don't get me wrong. It's a privilege. It's an honor to get to that point. I'm not discounting any of that, but I think it's it's not what it's cranked up to be, And at the end of the day, when you leave, no one cares. You know what I mean? Like whatever position you held, no one cares, and I'm good with that. I never had any false expectations. Like it's coming because of the way our system is built. So I was very happy to just no pizza parties. Just here's my stuff. I'm leaving.
Well, I know a lot of people who have been in leadership positions like that, where everyone is competing to get on your calendar for the day, right? And then you leave your job, and a month goes by, 2 months goes by, and those people that are competing to get on your calendar aren't returning your phone calls, or it's like a whole different dynamic.
I coined the term situational loyalists. Situational loyalists. Like if the situation dictates their loyalty, they're there. If it doesn't, they're not there.
I actually love that, situational loyalists. Right? And there's so many of them out there. So just to go full circle here. Super competitive to get into Rhode Island State Police when you started. 4,300 applications for 30 spots, right?
Yep.
Where are we now in terms of recruitment and retention?
Yeah, so nationally, not only here in Rhode Island, nationally, down, really down. I think it was, you can follow the trends of how when good things are happening in law enforcement, there's a lot of people that want to get in there. It's a prestigious job. It pays well. It has good benefits. And then when we're wrong, and
just bring that a little bit closer.
When we're wrong, rightfully we should be held at a higher standard. And unfortunately, all of law enforcement takes a hit, right? So, you when George Floyd happened, and I was at the tail end of my career during the riots and the COVID and all that. So that was right as I was getting ready to retire, and we all took a hit, and then the defund thing and all that, which I just thought was which was ludicrous because I knew it was going to happen. You start taking them off the street, crime's going to increase, right? So and it wasn't a prestigious job anymore. People were looking at it as like, oh my gosh, you're in law enforcement. Like it was a bad thing. So I give those people at that time that signed up, I have so much respect for them because they were literally in my 27 years, they were literally at the worst time I had ever seen for law enforcement, and they were still stepping up to come in, right?
Well, it's almost reminiscent of when like the military at the tail end of Vietnam,
Right.
right, where there was such disdain for the troops who were coming home,
Right.
and there's all those stories about
Military
troops-
wasn't popular when I joined the Marine Corps. It was not popular.
right,
It was after Vietnam, a little bit of a separation in years, but it was not like, this is not a popular thing. And
Right.
thank God it's gone the other way now.
Right.
That servicemen and women are respected, and they're held in a high esteem, which they should be. My son's in the Air Force, as you know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so get
So
back
the-
to that. It's just it's a national problem. It's even Rhode Island State Police has that issue where they're not getting the number of candidates. No department is, right.
Yeah.
So in
So
the
like
state,
what percent are we down? Would you say like you get 4,300 for 30
they may
slots.
get 400 or 500 now.
Wow, so it's like 10% of what it used to be.
Oh
the-
yeah,
the demand.
yeah,
That's wild,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's and the vetting process. So it's typically like half through the entire process. What do I mean
Yeah.
by that? So like, if you have 1,000 people sign up, half won't pass the PT test. But we're looking to change that, right?
Right.
We are changing that. Not
Yeah.
we're looking to. We are changing that. Half won't pass the PT test. The half that pass the PT test, half won't usually pass the written exam.
Gotcha.
Right.
So
About
you're
a
down
half-
to 250.
No,
Yeah.
then they got to go to an oral interview, right?
Yeah.
So now maybe half of them don't pass that, or a third of them don't pass.
Right.
Now you go to the background, very extensive background,
Yeah.
right? That's going to take out another 0.25% or more, right? So
Yeah.
now even more, sometimes that's even higher. Now you're literally culled that down to a very, very small number. Where before, if the class was 34 people, there was 75 that were plug and play, like
Yeah.
rock stars ready to go.
Right.
Like those days are over
Right.
for now.
What was the PT test? What is the PT test?
Yeah, so the PT test is easy. I think it's candidly, I think it's a joke. It's a minute of push-ups, a minute of sit-ups, a mile and a half run, and a 300-meter sprint.
And half the
Half the
people.
people can't pass that test.
I mean, you're not running Ironmans for that
No,
thing,
no.
So, which is surprising because you think about someone, if you spend 2-3 weeks just focusing on that, you'd think that
You would think.
you would be able to do push-ups for a minute,
Yeah.
and a mile and a half too,
Right.
So tell me, we've got this big problem: recruitment, retention, high caliber candidates for a very powerful job, which is a Rhode Island State Trooper or just a municipal police officer, right? You need to have the right person, not only physically and mentally, but also morally, right?
Yeah.
Who can live in the gray area and make the good, virtuous decisions that need to be made as a police officer, right? What's Fit to Serve trying to do?
Yeah, so
This is Kevin's new company, Fit to Serve. Not that new at this point, but
yeah.
tell us the story about.
Yeah, so I think one thing that's worth noting is that when I think the average age used to be like 27, 28 years old, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of life experience
Yeah.
with the candidates coming in. Now there were college requirements, there was all sorts of different things. Now you're not getting that older candidate, if you will. They're
Gotcha.
younger, right? So
Yeah.
to the point of, tremendous amount of responsibility for a 20, 21, 22-year-old young man or young woman with virtually no real life experience unless they were prior military or done something like that.
Yeah.
College and then right in, right? Which was not happening back in the day at
Right.
all. Now the departments are having to take those people at such a young age. I've seen it work out really, really well. Young people that are molded and they've done an excellent job. And then I've seen people that, they might get through the academy, but once they get on the road, they don't make it off the field training program.
Yeah.
So I've seen it both sides. I think if you were to ask the Chiefs, they would tell you that they would prefer a more seasoned, life experienced person, whether you were a school teacher, whether you were a coach, but you had some type of life experience, right?
Yeah.
So when I was retiring, kind of looked at what was going on nationally, would see a lot of these, horrible incidents of when we would see police overuse of force, and things like that. So it really comes down to training, right?
Yeah.
So, in preparation. So, and I saw a lot of really good men and women not make it through the State Police Academy, and even the Municipal Academy when I was involved with them. And it wasn't for anything other than lack of preparation and training. Like you just said, like, how could you not pass the PT test? Well, they're not properly training. They're not properly preparing. So I saw a preparatory training need for law enforcement candidates. And then I saw a consolidation of testing to save municipalities money, increase their candidate pools, and we created Fit to Serve.
Mm-hmm. And a candidate comes in to Fit to Serve day one. I want to be a police officer. How does this work? Assuming that they're not at CCRI and they're not in that mentorship pipeline, but they're just off the street, change of career.
Yeah, so the way it works now is I have 2 contracts with the Rhode Island Chiefs Association, one to administer the PT test and one to administer the written exam, which we converted to online to obviously capture people outside the state. So historically, if you were going to be an East Greenwich police officer, you would go and take the East Greenwich test on Saturday, the PT test and the written. The following weekend, if you were looking to go to North Kingstown, you'd take most likely the exact same written exam and definitely the same PT test because that's the standard.
Yeah.
And then every time you did that, you would have to take, so the candidate would be applying and testing multiple times to multiple agencies. Time out of work, cost of doctor's notes, loss of time of work, and it's costly to the departments.
Yeah.
So what we did now is we just consolidated all of that testing. So a candidate now, if you go to East Greenwich, they're going to say, contact Fit to Serve to schedule your written exam and your PT exam. So you would come to us, you pay us a fee to take each exam. If you pass the PT test, it's good for 1 year to any municipality in the state except for the state police.
Yeah.
Providence Police accepts it, but they encourage you to come and test. And then the written exam, if you get a 70 or higher, it's good for 2 years.
Yeah.
So for $250, $125 each, you're good for 1 to 2 years respectively on your testing.
Gotcha.
So that's gonna just put a lot of people into the system, and then we invite the police department to come watch the test, recruit them right on site.
Yeah.
I have a job fair thought process where even if candidates aren't ready to test, they come and watch the test and start that recruitment process with the departments right then and there. So it's like the NFL Combine, really. So their police department's coming in, and then at the end of that weekend, we test once a month. I take all that data, name, age, race, score, contact information of every single candidate, and we disseminate that to every police department in the state. So now that increases their opportunity to put eyes on candidates that they normally wouldn't be doing so.
Gotcha. And so you save the municipalities money, you get the candidates through the door, and you help streamline the process, which, what are there, 39 different cities and states in Rhode Island. So it just makes it way more efficient, economies of scale and so forth, right? So and then what does Fit to Serve do in terms of the prep?
So what we'll do is we have training courses to help you pass that PT test.
Yeah.
And then we identified, through our experience, my experience, and just over the years, like what the key components are that eliminate candidates once they're actually in the academy.
Yeah.
So we do lead up training for the PT test, and then we do a ton of lead up training to get them ready for the academy. So that's like, we do run groups, fitness groups, defensive tactics, which is now essentially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, pool training, firearms training. We do oral interview preparatory training for when they go for their interviews. So we really give them a ton of opportunity to really, really be super successful once they walk through the door.
Yeah. So not only is it the testing, but it's also the prep to to be successful in the testing, but also at the academy.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Where I imagine that depending on the academy, there's, a range of people who drop out, right? Whether it's...
Yeah, definitely. So, I can tell you that, our numbers are really good, and it's a huge commitment on the part of the candidate.
Right.
We train in Jamestown, come down, be part of the run groups, be part of the jiu-jitsu, be part of this, so there's a ton of training. It takes a huge commitment on their part.
Yeah.
I think it's the success is on them and how much they're going to put into it.
Yeah. What makes a fantastic police officer?
I think it's, you'll hear this all the time. I think it's common sense too.
Yeah.
And I think it's humility. It goes a long way, right? So, I think that the humility of identifying, having that compassion for whatever situation you are. Now, if it's a really potentially violent situation, obviously there's been a tremendous amount of training to make sure you're safe, make sure that persons are safe, to de-escalate. But, let's face it, there's a lot of training that goes into saving a life. And there's a lot of training that goes into taking a life, right? Yeah. So no one wants to take a life, but that's sometimes could happen. Yeah. Statistically, doesn't happen, often at all, thankfully. But, you look at the amount of officers that are killed in the line of duty, and there's a high danger out there. So I think it's someone that, can understand what's going on quickly, assess that information, sometimes step out of it, and not get that tunnel vision, and be able to handle pressure. So I think the key is when, especially in Rhode Island and in some of the other states that have a really high military environmental type academy, to the outside world, they're like, whoa, this looks like, why are we yelling at people? Why are they doing all this crazy stuff? Because physically and emotionally and mentally, and we're trying to assimilate as closely as possible the street and the intensity and the pressure that you're going to face, and your ability to either handle that stress or not handle it. So that's where I think, and some people are really good at it. Some people excel at the academy and then come on the street and freeze. And they're gone, right? They're gone. They shouldn't be there. So, and then there's other people that barely make it through the academy that are fantastic cops and become great leaders and chiefs. And there's no one size fits all, but it's, I think a lot of it has to do how you're brought up, how you can process information, but I think the humility piece goes a long way.
Similar to a lot of other elite organizations, it's humility, it's relationships, it's global acumen, technical ability, and just being someone that people want to work with and trust. But would you say that gun violence and fentanyl are the number 1 and 2 issues facing Rhode Island today? Yeah,
I mean, definitely the fentanyl is here, and I think that those go hand in hand, right? So anytime somebody's trafficking narcotics, whatever it is, whether it's cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, whatever, they're going to protect that with weapons, right? So they go hand in hand. So anytime, that's why when you see a lot of no-knock search warrants, when you see them just, jumping out of the van, or a SWAT team coming up and just caving the door in, there's a probability, or a high probability or knowledge that that person has weapons in there. And, they don't know if they're being robbed, even if it's police,
so they could use them.
So definitely, I don't think it's just Rhode Island. I think if you were to talk to anybody, it's fentanyl, and then obviously the gun violence.
I'll tell you, and I'm thinking of the gun violence especially because of what happened today at the Catholic school. And it's just these things, and I mention it just because we hear about them so often, but you never want to get desensitized to how awful this is and how we should come up with a solution here that,
Definitely.
you know, keeps children and civilians safe, you know, and it just, you know, I look at these things and it just, you know, turns my stomach inside out,
It's
you
awful.
know. And I'm sure, you know, I work at, or I'm very involved in my high school, and like dealing with security issues now is like a top of the mind thing, you know, and it's really unfortunate that we're living in this time, right? I mean, I was just talking, there used to be a rifle team at my high school growing up, and now could you imagine like a bunch of kids walking across the field with guns, right?
And that wasn't that long ago.
Really? Right? It was
Wasn't that long
like
ago.
30 years ago, right? Which isn't that long. And I just, I wonder, have the police department started training for, you know, God forbid, school shootings, mall shootings, whatever. And I say that with, you know, the failure that happened in Texas,
Uvalde, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like, the police department has to learn as the times change, of course. But has that been like a tactical consideration for?
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, I think you just said it. What happened in Texas shouldn't have happened. I can tell you from this is my opinion and my experience, that would not have happened in Rhode Island. There would have been people crashing through doors, police officers. You know, I looked at
Guns
that,
up,
and
ready to go.
the first thing you think about is like, what training did they have, right?
Right.
Like, who says like stand back when you have an active shooter in a school?
Right.
No one.
Right.
So, you know,
It's almost like 9/11.
You're going.
Where it's like,
that's what you get paid to do.
Right.
You're going.
yeah.
Right. Like,
And it kind of makes me think of 9/11, where
Right.
if someone ever tried to hijack a plane, I'm pretty sure the whole plane would
Exactly.
fight back now,
Right.
because they know how it ends, right?
Exactly.
And so once, you know, you get some sadly terrible tragedies, it's like reps for learning,
Yeah.
right? And but that brings me to, and I want to end with this. Well, two things I want to end with. One is, how did your faith play a role in really tough, gritty decisions that had to be made, life and death? You know, we were just talking before we turned the cameras on about what it's like to have to make a call to a parent or someone, a family member, about their loved one being dead.
yeah. I mean, I think we should do podcast 2.0.
I was just going to say, we got to do another one.
because of everything we took the time on was great, but
Yeah.
I feel like we should have just concentrated on the faith part of it.
100%.
So, yeah, just a faith-based person, and I have been, and you know, fortunately, that's where you and I met in the Holy Land on a pilgrimage. So, I was blessed to have been there and met you, and we've just had this great friendship ever since. So, yeah, faith to me, perspective-wise, is that's the foundation. So, yeah, if I, you know, this is for me, it was just part of my life, always has been.
Yeah.
And in those moments of seeing bad things and coming across things that you know aren't going to be good, you know, for me it was always just to say a quick prayer,
Right.
you know, for that person, for their family who may not know, to your point. And
Right.
that's what we're talking about with the school shooting, that, you know, those parents, their lives are forever changed, you
Right.
know.
And
So,
it's like, you know, I can imagine before you knock on those doors, or
Yeah.
before you pick up that phone and make that call, you're doing the sign of the cross.
yeah,
know?
you just you for me, it's you know, it's somebody's mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, like whatever it is, and their life is forever changed, you know.
Yeah.
So if you're rolling into that driveway and all the lights are off at 2:00 in the morning,
Yeah.
you know, when you knock, their life is never going to be the same, you know.
Right.
So you know, I've always relied on my faith, and hopefully you know, I feel that there's a lot of men and women in law enforcement that have that faith. I see it now with the young guys and gals that I train, and you know, they're faith-based, and we wear some religious bracelets if they want, and
Right.
you know, they know that I don't know how you're going to get through it without it.
Right. And I remember, you know, we were on this trip with about 30 people, all different walks and forms
Yeah.
of life. And you and I didn't know each other at all
No.
when we were in Bethlehem at the site of Christ's birth.
Right.
And I said to you, did you have any spiritual mentors that brought you closer to your faith? Because, you know, I, in my own life, have had spiritual mentors. And you shared with me that, what was the priest's name? That
Father
was also
Dennis Rochford.
Rochford.
Yeah.
And just a great man. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Vietnam vet, Marine, combat wounded. Made a pact with God. You get me out here, I'll become a priest. So he did.
He was at the Tet Offensive, right?
Was in Way City, to Tet Offensive.
Oh,
And
that's
yeah, he, you know, I was a Eucharistic minister in high school with my mom because of him. You know?
Really?
Yeah. And my mom and I would go to nursing homes on Sundays and give out the Eucharist to the elderly and the old folks, and it was a beautiful experience, you know. And so yeah, he was mine. He was mine.
That's amazing. Well,
we got to do.
We got to do part two.
We got to do the faith.
We're just getting cooking, and we've got another meeting at 2:30, and you know, and this next meeting is flesh out more of the Fit to Serve business model and how we're going to scale this across the country, helping different municipalities, states, and most importantly, getting good, strong police officers out on the streets.
Well,
but
appreciate it, Pat.
I just want to wrap up with one thing. First off, I want to say thank you. You're the best.
Thank
all
you.
right, and a
honored to
dear
be here.
friend, and I love you.
I'm honored.
But really the thing I wanted to wrap up with was a video from Channel 10 News in Rhode Island.
I knew it.
Where
This is what I knew.
you think he's a sweet, nice, virtuous man, but I want to show you
This is
what
what it
happens
was.
when he turns it on. Okay.
Well, see, I actually knew that this was going to be the.
And standing at attention on this cold January morning, many are undoubtedly wondering if they made the right decision.
Square yourself away. You're a mess.
That's you, right? I love
That's what we
it.
were just talking about.
Yeah.
It looks a little to the outside world. It looks a little like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait a minute.
Right. Well, I was prepping for this, and I started watching this video, and I was like, "Oh yes, I love it."
Oh my
Oh,
God. I actually knew this is what you were going to
Did you? This is what you thought it was?
I said this is what he's going to pull.
Oh, but amazing. All right, brother. Well, you'll have to
Love
come
you.
back soon. All right.